guys, welcome back to The Bright Side. Macy here, The Bright Side Girl, and today we're going to be doing my December reading wrap up. Now, I read enough books to have a separate audio and physical reading wrap up, but since this is going up kind of late, I'm just gonna jump in and go as quickly as I can. There are a ton of books that I got to in December. Most of them are very short though, graphic novels and novellas, so I won't have like a ton to say. I believe this is probably the first video where you're seeing the shelves are mostly done. I have a little bit of a bare space here that I have a plan for in a minute, but that'll be exciting. You will get at least one more video with them unfinished because I filmed these kind of out of order. Certain things needed to go up before other things did, so kind of keep that in mind. I read a ton of great things in December. I want to say like 90% of them were Christmas holiday reads, and then I read, I think, only 2 non-holiday reads. So we're just gonna dive right in. All right, I read a bunch of Christmassy graphic novels. Some of these were for Jingle Bellathon, which is my Christmassy readathon that I will link the vlog for up in the cards. I like to read graphic novels. They're kind of fun, a little bit relaxing. These were a little bit more young than what I normally read. I kind of will read anything, but usually I read like more young adult graphic novels, and I would say most of these were more kind of middle grade style. I read The Island of Misfit Toys. This is just a Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer version graphic novel, but it has its own little story. Very short, very cute. Really, really good for kids especially. Like, I wouldn't highly recommend this one. If you just love graphic novels, then I would check it out, but it definitely is geared more towards like middle grade or younger kids. It's fun to read to kids as well. I think I gave it 4 stars. Star rating for graphic novels are kind of all over the place because the art comes into play and all that stuff. Then I read Snow Thinks, Plants vs. Zombies. So this is a really popular app that I really enjoy. I play Plants vs. Zombies when I'm like anxious or if we're like on vacation because you can play it with your phone like on airplane mode, and it's just like a fun app. I don't really play a lot of games like that, so this is one of the only ones I play. When I found out they had graphic novels, I picked them up. They're fun. They're just really wacky and kooky. I wouldn't say that they have like a huge storyline about them. So this one was just about the zombies are basically making everything cold and frozen, and they have to kind of figure out a way to save them, and there's plants and things. It's just kind of silly and fun. So again, 4 stars. I read Happy Norwalidays. So this is book 4. I would say this is more of a kid's book than a graphic novel. I wasn't sure about that when I ordered it. So it's very cute, very, very young, but I wanted to check it out. But again, this is straight up for kids. Like, I wouldn't even consider this a graphic novel. It's just a kid's book. Kind of a cute series though if you have little ones. Then I read A Christmas Carol in a graphic novel form. Didn't love this. The graphics I felt like were only okay. Like, they didn't really do much for me. They weren't bad. They weren't amazing. And then it very, very much closely follows the original Christmas Carol. So nothing like super unique about it. I would recommend if you do enjoy graphic novels and you just want to absorb Christmas Carol. I know a lot of people like to read some form of the Christmas Carol every year. Something you can think about. This has some sticker residue on it from when I picked it up from the library, but I also got to Heart and Brain Gut Instincts. So I have been following author and his work on Instagram for years. So this is Nick Saluk. His Instagram account is The Awkward Yeti, I believe. And he just does these heart and brain comics where it's like there's a brain and there's a heart, and they have to like work together, and so they're just very, very funny. And the heart is always wanting to do something fun and frivolous, and the brain's always trying to be sensible, and that's kind of how balancing out that works. And then he has like other organs and stuff in here too. He's got like a kidney that walks around saying, I made these, and they're stones, and it's really funny. He's got like a game, and I just really, really like the comics. They pop up in my Instagram feed every day, so I thought I'd check out this full graphic novel, and it was wonderful. It's just a bunch of them all put together. If you need something just like to make you feel good, I would check this one out. I also got his kids book, but I haven't read it yet, and he has a game called Organ Attacks that I really want as well. So enjoyed this one, 5 stars. Another version of the Christmas Carol graphic novel form, but Disney style. This one I think I liked more. So this is with Scrooge McDuck. Basically it's just him as Scrooge, but it's got all the Disney Donald Duck style things in it, and I enjoyed this one. It's just kind of what you would expect, but this one definitely is just a really cute graphic novel that follows the Christmas Carol. Then I read North Stars. I told you guys I read a lot of graphic novels. Welcome to Snowville. So again, I just looked up like Christmas graphic novels, and there are not a ton of them. So this is literally the shortest book that I read last year. It's like, I don't know, 30 pages or something, maybe 70. And it's just about Santa's, I think it's his daughter, and there's like a Snow Queen and Krampus, and they all have like a little mission to do in the North Pole. So I would say this is probably YA, but it is very, very short. There's even like this doll cutout that you can do to like make like paper doll cutout. So nothing like overly amazing, but it was still really cute. And I believe the last graphic novel that I read, and the best one, was The Nutcracker and the Mouse King. Follows the original Nutcracker story really well, and I just really, really enjoyed it. I loved the art style. It had some of its own unique things. It's a much longer graphic novel. I love the Nutcracker, and I thought this was so well done. It has a princess in here, and a special nut that needs to be found, and Nutcracker and the Mouse King, and I really, really enjoyed this one. This is illustrated and adapted by Natalie Anderson off of the original Nutcracker novel. So love this one. I'm gonna grab a copy of myself for next Christmas. So the last thing that I physically read, and then the only thing that wasn't a graphic novel, I did read half of a different regular novel, but I finished it in January, so we'll talk about that in my January wrap up. But on ebook, shocking, because I never read ebooks, I read Hauntings and Humbugs. This is a Christmas Carol steampunk gender swapped novella from Melanie Karsak, who I've been wanting to read from for a long time. She's an indie author, and she's one that I had higher up on my list because I'd heard a lot of good things, and she has some mermaid books that I want to check out. So this is a steampunk version of the Christmas Carol with a female Scrooge and a female Cratchit, which was really, really interesting because I had never read those before, and I liked the time period. I loved the steampunkness. I think this is considered young adult, but I'm not sure. It's very short. It's only 100 pages. I had a lot of really cool steampunk whimsical vibes about it that I really loved, but it was, I feel like, sadder than the Christmas Carol because the background on the female Scrooge was even sadder than Scrooge's background. I feel like Scrooge's background's not that sad. Like everything happens because of his choices for the most part. But in this one, she's actually had some like traumatic things happen to her that were pretty sad. But it's really short, and it was like whimsical, and I love the steampunkness, and it made me really excited to check out other stuff from Melanie Karsak. Her ebooks go on sale a lot. So if you're interested, check and follow her on Instagram, because she posted this one. I got it for free or for like $1 during the holiday season. But this is probably my favorite Christmas Carol retelling that I've read so far. Okay, then everything else I read on audiobook, so we'll dive right in. I read a lot of stuff. I will post the narrators right here like normal. We're gonna just jump in because I read a ton of stuff. All of these were Christmassy except for 2 or 3 of them. We'll talk about more at the end. Okay, so I reread, and Buddy read this with my friend, What Light by J. Asher, because I want to do a young adult Christmas romance video next year, and I need to reread a couple books that I had to see if I like actually liked them. There haven't been a ton of young adult Christmassy books until like the last year or so. Like most of them are adult, so I kind of just read anything that I could get my hands on. I do not recommend this one. I remember thinking it was strange the first time I read it, but there was just not very many young adult Christmas books, and there were parts that I liked, so I kept it. I think I am gonna unhaul this one though. It is so weird. So our main character's parents own like a Christmas tree farm. I think they own it in 2 places. Either way, she winds up going to California to work one Christmas and has to like leave her friends behind, and she's kind of sad about it because it's like her possible last Christmas, I think, with her friends. I can't remember which place she's like leaving or going to. So she's just kind of growing up. She's 17, and then she like meets a boy and falls in love. But the boy has a secret, and everyone kind of has like a story to tell about him, and she's got to kind of find out what this secret dark past thing that he has. And I personally felt like it was crazy. Like this was kind of like a sweet, cute little Christmas YA story, and then there's this really dramatic thing that's thrown in there, and I felt like it kind of split the book. I felt like it should have been more like dramatic and intense or more sweet. I don't know, it just took me away, and like everyone kind of like forgave the character really easily, but I felt like what happened was too intense to kind of brush under the rug. Like when you find out what happened in his past, you're kind of like, huh, what am I reading? So unfortunately, for that reason, I think I'm gonna unhaul this book because it was just too weird. I loved the Christmas farm and I liked the writing style and things like that, but the incident is just too strange for me. Too strange. So I am glad I reread it though, because now I know. Then I read Bah Humbug by Michael Rosen. This again is just another short Christmas Carol retelling. This is a middle grade Christmas Carol retelling. I picked up a lot of retellings during the holiday season. Has a few illustrations in here, but not a ton. Kind of has like a Roald Dahl style illustrations about it. I did not like this one really. It was kind of sad because the dad is not the best in here. He's like a workaholic and he's supposed to go see his son's play. So you're getting the perspective from his dad and the son, but you're also getting huge chunks of the actual Christmas Carol play. Like literally there's scenes in here where it'll be like Scrooge. Poor boy, that's me sitting there. I wish, but it's too late. Ghost. What's the matter? Scrooge. Nothing, nothing. And in the audiobook, they're reading it that way. Ghost, Scrooge, Dickens. And it's just unnecessary because I know the Christmas Carol really well and I would have rather liked to be shown it in a different format rather than having to get big chunks of the play as the kid was performing. And I just felt like it didn't like wrap up super well. It just didn't really like work for me. So this was, I think, like a 2.5 star. Like it might work for some middle graders, but I just thought the formatting was really strange. There are a lot of really good middle grade books out there, especially Christmas ones. Speaking of, I read The Toymaker's Apprentice. This is by Cheryl L. Smith. The narrator for this one was really good. So this is a Nutcracker retelling, but following Drosselmeyer as a young man, and you're learning how he like became Drosselmeyer. And there's this whole system with like the Rat King and the rats taking over the city and magic and thieves and like all kinds of mystery and magic. This is probably one of the best Nutcracker like reimaginings I've read, even though it's like a prequel almost. This is a middle grade book. I so enjoyed it. The narrator was really good. I'm so glad I finally read it. It was just really like whimsical and fun. Had a little bit of like a steampunky kind of vibe to it as well. So highly recommend. I think I gave this 4 stars. Then I read The Life and Adventures of Santa Claus by L. Frank Baum via audiobook. This is very, very short. It's like less than 100 pages. This is a short story by L. Frank Baum, who wrote Wizard of Oz. I think this one is dated. I don't mind older books, but I believe this is considered more middle grade, and it was just very slow, very detailed. It had some really cool whimsical parts about it because there's like fairies and it had some unique things. Had a little bit to do with religion at certain parts. I just was like really bored through most of it, so I'm gonna keep it because it's kind of more of a classic style read. And if you're up for like a short Christmassy read, I would try it out, but it wasn't one of my favorites. And I like a lot of older books. So I think I gave this one 3 stars. Then I read The Christmas Asaurus by Tom Fletcher, and it's got all of these fun like wording, and I just feel like this would be a really good book for a kid to physically read as well, but the narrator was really good. This is actually a series or a trilogy, so we'll be reading the rest probably next Christmas. But our main character, I believe he's in a wheelchair, so you get that aspect of his life, and I think his mom has died or has left, and he's just kind of struggling. He asks Santa for a dinosaur and Santa somewhat delivers. So it's very cute, very adventurous. There are some little bullying scenes in here with like a villain that's kind of like sad and hard to read about, but overall it was just really, really fun and adventurous and very, very different. And I thought the narrator was amazing. So I think I gave this 5 stars actually. I read How Mrs. Claus Saved Christmas. This is by Jeff Gunn. This is the 3rd in a Santa Claus series. This is an adult Christmas novel. So it also has a few illustrations in here just with the different characters. So the first book in this series, you're basically learning like the life and times of Santa Claus, but also from like historical aspects and things that happened throughout time and how different religions kind of perceive Santa Claus, but you're being told it from Santa Claus's perspective. There's a lot of like fictional things in there as well. I didn't love that one. It felt a little bit too much like a history book, even though it was a story. The second one was really good though, because you're learning basically like how mall Santas came to be and Santa's opinion on them and how he kind of tried to keep Santa like a sacred thing, and it was really adventurous and fun. This one was interesting. So we're following Mrs. Claus, and she is in a time period, it's in the 17 or 1600s, where they actually banned Christmas in a part of Europe, I can't remember which part exactly now, for like 12 years. And basically the pagans thought that it was a frivolous holiday that was just an excuse to like get drunk and party and not an excuse to actually like worship God or Jesus, and basically they thought it was sinful, so it got banned. And Mrs. Claus is trying to save Christmas. So you're actually getting true historical facts of things that actually happened, but then also the whimsical part of Mrs. Claus obviously not being real and being in there, and she's got friends from different time periods and they're trying to kind of save it. So it was really, really interesting because you learn a lot. I didn't know that Christmas was banned in that part of, I think it was Europe, for a few years, and it was like interesting. It was a little bit dark because of that, and it has a lot to do with like religion, paganism and Christianity and Catholicism and stuff like that. So that's not going to be for everybody, but I thought it was really, really interesting. Definitely the second one was my favorite because the point of it was just to be kind of like a fun adventure, and the other two were more like a historical fiction thing. So I will be keeping them all though because I love Santa books. Okay, then I read The Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking. This one is not Christmassy and it is not wintry. It's actually set in spring. However, our main character is a 14-year-old wizard and it's in like a fantasy realm, and her skill is that she's good with like baking and can do magic with baking. So she has like a little gingerbread men that help her in her baking, and she has a sourdough starter familiar. So because of the baking elements, I felt like it was good for like Christmas and winter time. And it was so much better than I expected. I'm actually going to check out some more of T. Kingfisher's books. It was such a solid fantasy read, and it was so fun with the gingerbread men and the sourdough. And basically our main character finds like a dead body in her aunt's bakery, and she has to like solve this mystery and also kind of escape danger. And it was just written so well. Really cool battle scenes in here, and it just was really, really wonderful. It was just like so sweet. So I gave this one 5 stars, and it made my top 12 of the year list as well. And I loved the narrator. She was incredible. Okay, so then I read The Christmas Murder Game. I was so excited for this one. I read it during one of the reading vlogs, but not Jingle Bellathon. I have been into like murder mysteries lately, and this one was set around Christmas time. It was supposed to be kind of festive. So in this one we have this, like, I think it's called the Endgame house. Our main character hasn't been back there since her like childhood, and she grew up there with like all her cousins and her mom, but her mom committed suicide, or so she thinks, and so she really hasn't been back there and has kind of stayed away. And she gets invited to go back by her aunt, who has passed in her will. She's asked her to come back and play this game that they play at the end of every year, like solving puzzles and going through mazes. And she says whoever wins the game will win the deeds to the house, but also she entices our character by saying she will learn who killed her mother, and she didn't think that her mother was murdered. It sounds very adventurous. I found it very slow and kind of sad. There were multiple deaths in the book, and I found them more sad than fun. I know that sounds kind of weird. It just wasn't this like fun, adventurous thing. The puzzles were not that interesting. I felt like the atmosphere wasn't really there. The Christmassiness wasn't really there either, and it just didn't really work for me. So I only gave this one 2.5 stars. Sadly, not a new favorite like I was hoping. Then I read The Matzah Ball. So this is actually a Hanukkah rom-com, but it's kind of Christmassy too. Our main character is Jewish, and she absolutely loves Christmas movies and books, and she writes Christmas romances secretly, and she makes some good money off of it. She's like one of the biggest Christmas romance authors or Christmassy book authors, and her parents don't know because her dad is a famous rabbi and she's Jewish and she doesn't want to like betray them, and she's kind of got this whole secret. She also has a chronic illness where she's got like chronic fatigue syndrome, and so writing is a good like outlet for her because she doesn't get as exhausted from it as she would other things. And then there's a little like friends hate to lover romance in here. She is told by her editor she basically has to write a Hanukkah holiday read instead of a Christmas read this year. They want to change it up, and they think this is great because she's Jewish, but she does not want to do that. So she has to kind of delve more into Hanukkah and try to make it as fun and whimsical as she thinks Christmas is, and like go hang out with her parents and this old friend and all this stuff. It was fun. They talked a ton about the main character's chronic illness. For some people that will work great. For me, I want my like rom-coms to be a little bit more like fun and adventurous and kind of silly. I did like that she was an interesting character and it kind of fleshed her out a little bit more, but they talked about it a lot, so it got a little bit heavy at parts for me. And then there were just some other things that were like a little bit strange. I think I gave this like 3 or 3.5 stars, and I will check out something else from the author. Didn't quite love it as much as I wanted, but it was like a decent read overall. Okay, then I read The Black Beast of Bel-Air by Mary Jo Putney. Again, this was like a 2-hour-long audiobook novella. It's a Beauty and the Beast retelling set at Christmas time. I was worried it was going to be a little smutty. It really wasn't at all. Maybe a little tiny bit at the end. Really enjoyed this. Wasn't as festive as I was expecting, but it was a neat little twist on Beauty and the Beast, and it had like a little bit of a historical element. It was very like romantic and fairy tale-esque. It was just a quick little read to get in. I probably will check out more from her, and she's got some other like wintry fairy tale retellings as well. So I did like this one. I think I gave it like 3.5 stars because it wasn't like amazing. It was so short, but it was enjoyable and I would recommend it. Okay guys, hanging in there. Sorry, there is a lot. So then I read Always in December by Emily Stone. I did not like this one. So I read this because I saw Haley in Bookland was reading it in a vlog, and in the vlog something happens in the book that makes people really mad and say that it's like not a romance. And I was really curious, so I grabbed a friend, we buddy read it together. I was actually really liking like the storytelling, the romance, the narrator was amazing. It's a British holiday set romance and I was just like really enjoying the vibes and everything. And then the like twist happened and it's more towards the end, I would say like 75% of the way in. Male character has like a secret that you find out towards the end, and I was pretty mad when I found out what it was. I wasn't like surprised though, as some people were. I was like annoyed because I don't love this kind of a thing, but I wasn't like surprised, if that makes sense. Mad's probably not the right word. But basically we have two characters. Our main character is going through a breakup and it's like really devastating for her, and she basically meets this guy who is temporarily visiting where she lives, and they kind of have like a little whirlwind for a weekend, and then he kind of disappears, and then she kind of keeps like bumping into him throughout the story. So I think again I gave this one 2.5. It probably deserves a 3 because the writing was actually really good. I just didn't love the twist that happened. I didn't really like the ending. Those kinds of stories just don't work for me. So unfortunately not a new favorite, but I kind of knew that going in. So I blame Haley and Bookland for this one. Then I read, so this is Christmas by Tracy Andreen. This is a young adult holiday romance. Okay, so in this one we have our main character lives in this town of Christmas, Oklahoma, and the town is basically named after Christmas, and she kind of pumps up their website and makes it look way more Christmassy, festive, and awesome than it is to attract tourists. But she actually attracts someone from her boarding school that she has been going to, and he brings like his aunt there for Christmas, and they're from England, and he is very mad when he arrives and things are not how they appear. There's no snow, there's none of the activities that he was promised, and so he demands that she make him and his aunt have a good holiday Christmas, and he explains that he goes and does different holiday places with his aunt every year. And so she is like on a mission to kind of make his and his aunt's Christmas really good. And I believe she's also working at her like aunt's hotel, and her parents are separated and she's kind of dealing with that stuff, but there's like kind of like a mini hate to love romance. I thought it was really cute. I thought it was fun. It was kind of unique. I enjoyed this one overall, one of the better young adult Christmassy romances. So I think I gave it like 3.75 stars, maybe 4. Very festive also. Then I reread My True Love Gave to Me. This is just a collection of holiday stories told by some of our favorite young adult authors. So they're all young adult. I think I skipped 2 of the stories this time. There's like 2 or 3 that I don't love, but I reread a bunch of my favorites because I always want to reread some every year. Holly Black and Jenny Han and a bunch of other people have really good stories in here. There's everything from like whimsical, mysterious men that only appear when it snows, to like a Krampus story, to like Santa's daughter being an elf. It's just really fun. So I always give this 5 stars, and I like almost all of the stories in here. So highly recommend. The last Christmassy read that I read was Just Like Magic by Sarah Hoggle. I've talked about this a lot because this actually made my top 12 of the year, which I will link down below in the cards. I loved this so much. One of my new favorite Christmas holiday books ever. It's an adult holiday love story adventure. Our main character is the granddaughter of a super famous actress, and so she's been kind of trying to like build herself on her own, but she is very spoiled and very privileged, and just things aren't going well for her. She's trying to do stuff on social media, and she's had a really messy breakup, and she's kind of just really upset. So she spends Thanksgiving alone. She gets drunk. She plays Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas backwards on her record player, and she accidentally summons the Christmas spirit in the form of a handsome man. And so she's like in a haze because she's been drinking, and he's like, "Hello, I'm Hal, and I'm here to bring Christmas spirit." And she screams, and it's really fun. It's kind of got like an elf vibe, but with more like romanticness. It is very silly, very whimsical. He's got magic that he can do to like make her feel more festive, but he doesn't do it well. She wants him to pretend to be her boyfriend to go home for Christmas with her like crazy rich eccentric family. I laughed out loud during this book. On the odd narrator's amazing, by the way, like 5 times. I don't think I've laughed out loud in a book in a really long time, especially on audio. And it was so funny, and it was just really fun, but also like really sweet. It had a great ending, and I just really loved it, but it is really like wild. So just go into it knowing that there's like lots of magic and lots of crazy scenarios. And technically all the characters are unlikable except for the Christmas spirit, but it's done in a way that like you still like them even though they're unlikable. Like they're still kind of redeemable. because she kind of wants to use this guy to get revenge on people, and he's kind of trying to like avoid it. It's so good. Solid 5 stars. Okay, then I read 3 non-Christmassy books. So first, a novella. I read Alex Penumbra 1969 by Robin Sloan. This is the prequel to Mr. Penumbra's 24-Hour Bookstore, which I believe I read last year. I love Robin Sloan. I'm getting ready to reread Sourdough, which is my favorite of his. So this was just a short little prequel that explained to you how he became like Mr. Penumbra. And I don't really want to say too much because Mr. Penumbra is kind of like a weird, quirky little book, but the novella was good. So if you like Mr. Penumbra, I would check this one out after. And it's just really short. It was like a 2-hour audiobook. All right, then I read Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. Finally, I try to pick like 1 or 2 things that I was really looking forward to get in during all the Christmassy reads. I have no problem like binging holiday and Christmassy reads. I love it. But I wanted to get to this one before the end of the year. This is set in the same world as Caraval. So I do recommend that you read Caraval first, even though we're following different characters, because we get a crossover character and there's references to things that happened in Caraval. Caraval is just a whimsical, just wonderful series. And this one, you're following 2 characters. It's just like amazing. It's so good. The romance is so much fun. Stephanie Garber's world building and just like the magic of it is so well done and beautiful. And it's really, really hard to explain, and I don't want to go into too much detail because this video is already super long, and this is a really popular book. And I also read Ballad of Never After, which made my top 12 of the year, to no surprise to anyone. Pretty much my favorite female narrator ever. She's so good. Highly recommended. I don't even know how to really like explain it too much, but just read Caraval and then jump into these and make your life a little bit better and more magical. That's what they do. Amazing. I think I gave Once Upon 4.5 stars and Ballad 5 stars, and I'm very much looking forward to the 3rd book. Okay, you guys, I know that was a super long video. Next time I read this many, I will definitely split up audiobooks and physical books, but I just kind of wanted to get this out there and done with since it's kind of late. Let me know how your December went and how your January is going. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you haven't already. Follow me on Instagram at The Bright Side Girl for more bookish and non-bookish content. I will link some other videos down below that you might want to check out next, and I will see you guys next time on The Bright Side.